A rider bought a bike in March. By the following January, it was listed as discontinued. Nothing was wrong with it. Nothing had changed. Every year, thousands of bikes get the same label not because they failed, but because the calendar said so. If you've ever wondered why this year's all-new model looks suspiciously like last year's, you're closer to the truth than you think. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why bikes get discontinued, and it has almost nothing to do with what's wrong with them. Ever owned a discontinued bike? Drop yes or no below. In the early 1990s, a bike could stay in a brand's lineup for 3, 4, sometimes 5 years without a single major change. Manufacturing was slower. Tooling was expensive. A frame mold cost too much to retire just because a new year started on the calendar. That changed gradually, then all at once. By the 2000s, carbon manufacturing made small design tweaks cheaper and faster to produce. A brand could adjust a tube shape, shift a cable routing path, or change a paint scheme without retooling an entire factory. The cost of newness dropped dramatically. Marketing noticed before engineering did. A yearly model refresh gave magazines something to write about, gave shops something to put in the window, and gave riders a reason to feel like last year's bike was somehow behind. None of that required the bike to actually be better. It just required it to be different enough to call new. By the 2010s, nearly every major brand had settled into the same rhythm. A new model announcement every 12 months, whether or not 12 months of genuine engineering progress had actually happened. The word discontinued started doing a lot of work it never used to do. Here's where it gets specific. What actually happens behind a discontinued label has almost nothing to do with what most riders assume, and once you see the pattern, you'll notice it on every bike wall you walk past. If you've ever felt pressured to upgrade to this year's model, subscribe now, because what comes next explains exactly who that pressure was built for. Pull up last year's flagship model next to this year's replacement, and the differences are often cosmetic. A new paint color, a slightly updated cable port. Sometimes nothing structural changes at all. The frame mold stays the same. The geometry stays the same. The ride feel stays the same. What changes is the name, the year printed on the down tube, and the price. Discontinued doesn't mean broken. It doesn't mean replaced by something meaningfully better. Most of the time, it means a brand needed a new product to announce, and the easiest way to create one was to retire the old name and ship the same bike under a new label. Component specs shift slightly more often than frames do: a different wheel brand, a one-tier higher group set, a different saddle. These changes are real, but they're also minor enough that a rider could often achieve the same upgrade themselves for a fraction of the cost of an entirely new bike. The discontinued label creates urgency where none actually exists. A shop with old stock to clear discounts the discontinued bike, while the new model sits at full price beside it. Two nearly identical bikes, one made to look outdated, one made to look essential. That's the uncomfortable part. But discontinuation isn't only about marketing. It's also about something far more practical happening behind the scenes, something that has nothing to do with riders at all. Bike companies operate on production forecasts made up to 18 months in advance. Factories need committed orders to schedule manufacturing runs efficiently. An annual model cycle isn't just a marketing tool, it's also a supply chain mechanism that keeps factories running on a predictable schedule. Discontinuing last year's model clears inventory systems, resets dealer ordering cycles, and gives sales teams a clean number to report at the end of each fiscal year. None of that benefits the rider directly. All of it benefits the business running underneath the rider's purchase. Dealers play a role too. A shop sitting on unsold, discontinued stock has every incentive to move it fast, often through aggressive discounting timed precisely to the announcement of the new model. The discount isn't generosity. It's inventory management with a friendly face. So who actually loses in this cycle? Mostly, it's the rider who feels behind for owning a perfectly good bike, and the rider who pays full price for new features that change almost nothing about how the bike rides. Who wins? The brand gets an annual press cycle. The dealer clears inventory on schedule. The factory keeps a predictable production calendar. The bike itself, in most years, barely changes at all. None of this means every new model release is meaningless. Real engineering improvements do happen, sometimes every few years, sometimes less often than the calendar suggests. The problem isn't that bikes improve. It's that the word discontinued gets used every single year, whether or not anything underneath it actually improved. The next time a bike gets labeled discontinued, the right question isn't whether you're behind. It's whether anything about the new one actually changed enough to matter. That rider from the start of this video didn't lose anything when their bike got discontinued. The bike still rode exactly the same the day after the label changed as it did the day before. Only the name on the box was different. Comment below, did your bike get discontinued while you were still happily riding it?